Ladies and gentlemen, Ifoma Stubbs.
So it's 1984. I just moved back to Detroit from Houston, Texas. I had been living there for about 5 years. I had married. I divorced my wife. I left the Shrine of the Black Madonna. I had been a member 10 years. I left the University of Houston. You know, I was at one of them life-changing stages. I wanted to be free. I wanted to be my own person. So here it is. I'm back in Detroit. It's winter of '84, and I pass this Metro Times newsstand, and I see this black woman, butt naked, and in a lotus position on the front cover. I said, what's that? So I take the magazine out of the cabinet, the thingy, and I look at the magazine. It says, Reverend Mozella Rainwater Sunshine says that Tantra and the Tao, that's T-A-O, by the way, is an African tradition. Now, I had had some martial arts training, and my first wife had given me a book called The Joy of Love and Sex by Joanne Chang. And so I was familiar with Tantra a little bit, and I was also familiar with the Tao from martial arts and so forth. But Tantra, Indian, the Tao, Oriental. So when she was saying an African tradition, it was like it piqued my interest. I wanted to know more. So I read her article, made sense to me. I said, I gotta get in touch with this woman. And because, you know, on the front cover of this paper, she was smiling. She was in a lotus position. She had an afro. She had flower in her hair. And the words were just covering her private area, but I could see that she was in her power, that she was butt naked in that studio, whatever it was. And me being a photographer, I could relate. So I said, well, I called her up. She had her phone number in the Metro Times. I called her up, and we talked about the article and so forth, and she said that she did massages, that I could, you know, get a massage, and we could talk more about what it is that she did. So I was eager, you know. I was very much interested, okay? So I meet her at her home. She opens the door, and immediately I see plastic sheets all over the doorways, and I see my breath in the house, and I see ice on the walls. She says, this is a cement house. I'm thinking, but I'm here for a massage, so I'm a bit worried, all right? And then she introduces me to her son, Merle. And Merle was like a special needs adult, because he was adult, but Merle, he shook my hand, and he kind of grunted, you know, and made noises. And so I'm not making fun, but what I'm saying is that, you know, here I am, I'm at a life, I'm changing my life, sort of like, I'm at a stage, I'm just a little bit vulnerable, you know what I'm saying? So Mozella, I think she could sense that. And so she led me into her massage room. And she told me, you know, oh, go ahead and undress. And she stepped out. And this massage room had a heater in it, so it was nice and comfortable. So I had my confidence back. Besides, you know, I was here to get information, okay? And as I was beginning to take my clothes off, I looked up, and I saw pictures of penises plastered all over her wall. I'm thinking, you know, I'm I'm not used to looking at men's penises, okay? So I was really, you know, it's like I was having a moment. So then Mozella comes in, and she has on a robe, but I noticed she's naked under her robe. So I'm thinking, I had never really had a massage with a naked masseuse. But, I was game for anything at this point, okay? So, I couldn't help but ask her. I said, well, what's up with the penises? And she says, I love penises. I love them all sizes, in all shapes, in all colors. And besides, she says, I'm an amateur photographer, so I took the pictures, and that's how she wanted her massage room. So I had no problems with that. I moved right along. I'm a photographer, too, at this time. So I can relate. So I get under the table. Mozella starts her massage. And I'm used to, like, a deep tissue massage, It's like, I want you to work me a little bit, But Mozella, she was giving me a sweetest massage. So it was a whole lot of oil, and she was like just kind of patting around my body and stuff. I couldn't feel nothing really, but so it wasn't a massage. But what happened during that time is that Mozella was talking to me about her mission and what it was that she was doing. And she said that women were unhappy sexually, that men were not lasting long enough in the bed or in having sex with women. They weren't extending their lovemaking, that they ejaculated too soon, and that women were very unhappy, and that she took it upon herself to train men to learn ejaculation control and extended lovemaking. Now, let me give a little bit of background on Mozella. Mozella was an RN, in fact, a head nurse. And so she was very knowledgeable, okay? And she had a way with herself. In fact, Mozella, she says, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a demonstration. And so what she did was she took my penis, lingam, as we call it, and she massaged me to erection, and then she stopped me from ejaculating. At that point, I was sold. It was like, I wanted to be her student, and I wanted to know what it was that she knew, okay? So, what you say? Set an appointment from another point? I set an appointment, okay? I set an appointment for ejaculation control training. She calls it ECT. She gave me a little booklet, little tape. Listen to these, a few exercises. So the next day, when I come, well, no pun intended. But the next day, when I get there, she says, I can teach you the fast way or the slow way. And I'm thinking, what's the difference? She says, well, you can learn, you can read books, you can, do exercises, and you can learn and you can practice on a woman, that you might be dating or something like that. Well, at the time I was single. I had just broke up with my wife and things like that. And she says, well, well, what's the other way? She says, well, I can teach you right now. I can teach you in one session how to, control your ejaculate and have an extended lovemaking experience. So I took door number one, okay? And it was the most powerful experience I had ever had in my life. She was able to do exactly what she said, We had an extended lovemaking session, and I held my ejaculate. And so at that point, I'm feeling like Superman. In fact, it was the most powerful experience I'd ever had in my life at that point. So I became her student. Definitely. I wanted to know more about what she knew, and I wanted more of that experience that I was having. So let me share something, though. I'm 28 years old. Mozella is 53 years old, okay? And so Mozella also is not very attractive in my, she's not attractive. She's not the type of woman that I would, pursue or something like that. So what she was able to do is she was able to, really share her teaching. She was serious about what it was she was doing. So make a long story short, Mozella, she fell in love with my photography. And she, well, at that time I was calling myself the third eye. And I took a witnessing approach to photography, meaning, I didn't interfere, I just kind of let things happen. And she liked that perspective, that angle. So we became good friends. In fact, I literally called her my godmother. Now, actually, understand now, Mozella was older than my mother, okay? So we were having a different kind of experience. But she had workshops at her home. She had other people who were interested in her techniques and her education. She was a raw food vegetarian at the time. This is 1984. There's not a lot of people going around eating raw food like she was, okay? She, as I mentioned, she had workshops at her home. And she would use me, oftentimes, to do a demonstration for the crowd of people. And I had no problems with it. I was her student, okay? So, moving right along, I learned, and she, like I said, she had an appreciation for me and my photography, so she decided that she wanted me to have her cameras and her lenses, because I guess she had taken enough pictures of the penises or whatever that she had done, and she wanted me to have her lenses. So it's interesting that her lenses, all of a sudden, I started focusing on women and photographing women. And it was very, rewarding for me, of course. But what I found was that it was very rewarding for women, too, because I had a series I was doing. I called it Beautiful Women, Naked, Draped, and Adorned. And so what I would do was, I had, at the African World Festival, a lot of different festivals, I had collected cloths, I had collected jewelry, I had collected many different artifacts and so forth, traditional African drums and things like that, masks. I had a lot of different, and I still do, for women to use and to play dress up and to have their experience being empowered. So what I would do was, I would see someone that I wanted to photograph, I would give them my card, and we would set an appointment, if they called, of course, and I would show them my portfolio. And I never had anyone who saw my portfolio to not model for me. So I guess that says I was doing something right. And then what I would do is I would set the space. I would have music, I would have incense. Like I said, I would lay the cloths out. They would see all the beautiful cloths and all the jewelry. And one thing would come up, and it was like, do I have to take my panties off? Because, it's, panties is something. But I learned with Mozella, though. Mozella was about being naked. In fact, she had a church called the Church of Theology or something like that. I kind of get it confused. But it was all about being naked. Get naked, be in nature, enjoy raw food, fresh air, fresh water. I'm sorry. And so she was, she was actually impacting me. And so, yes, you have to take your panties off. And the reason why you have to take your panties off, because nothing ever really happens until a person gets naked, okay? All your security and everything, believe it or not, there's a lot of security in panties and bras, It's like, think about it. Women walk on bathing suit, they be on the beach with their panties and bras on and it don't bother them none at all, okay? They call it a bathing suit. So, I noticed, because, I got a little weak occasionally and might let someone, keep their panties on, but the work didn't turn out right. The panties were in the way, it's like I gotta, And at that time, we was using film, so I would literally have to retouch it out or something like that. So it just wasn't, you know, it wasn't conducive to my art either. So moving along, I'm doing my photography and so forth. The women are sharing with me that they're having breakthroughs. It's empowering for them. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't connect sex and things like that with my photography, okay? I might have a conversation with you. I might even talk to you about Tantra the Tao. But when I'm doing my art, that's what I'm doing, okay? I'm not, you know, I'm not interested in destroying the atmosphere. I'm interested in having a breakthrough and creating a masterpiece with the woman. So this went on, you know, actually it's 1990 now, and I'm married again. You know, I found a woman. A tantric man would probably say she was the woman of his life because she was very sexual, okay? Very, you know, extended lovemaking was no problem for her. You know, she was strong. She was what a man wanted, okay? So I continued on with my work, of course. I continued with my photography, doing my, I actually created what I call the Woman's Shrine, which is a collection of images of women naked, draped, and adorned that edifies the woman's spirit, that edifies power and empowerment. So, and you'll hear more about that because, you know, occasionally, you know, it's on exhibition. But I got a call from Mozella. And Mozella said that a group called the Black Enforcers had just sent her a letter that they were going to burn her house down. Now, me and Mozella, we, you know, we were in touch, but we kind of out of touch, sort of like. So I'm thinking, has Mozella lost her mind? Because I had never heard of a group called the Black Enforcers. However, farther down the line, I found out for sure that this group actually did exist. They were a vigilante group. And they designated houses of ill repute. If you were selling drugs, or if they thought you were in prostitution, or they thought that you were, you know, a house that they didn't want, they would burn you down. And the thing is that they said, we're going to burn your house down if you're in it or not. So a week later, I went by Mozella's house, and her house had been burnt down. So I was worried because I didn't honestly take her seriously. So about a week later, Mozella, she calls me up. She says that she escaped by jumping out of the second story of her home because they had set her home on fire when she was there. So, you know, we related, and she said she was moving. So Mozella moved back to, or should I say moved to Minnesota where her daughter was. And so far, I have not heard from Mozella since then. And Mozella now will be 86 years old, okay? So that's what you call big sexy, okay? So for me, I had an experience with women where they were being revived. I had women to tell me that this was the most powerful experience they had because they were able to be naked in the presence of a man and not feel like, you know, like I was going to pounce on them or something, you know. I actually witnessed them unfolding. I actually witnessed them flowering. In fact, I had one woman that I had taken to the cemetery. I wanted to do some photos in the cemetery. And she had cloth. We was doing cloth, but she all of a sudden, the sun was shining, the wind was blowing, and she started being butt naked. She was feeling the air on her and everything, and it was like, you could see her being empowered, literally. You know, I got shots of her just taking in the sun, you know. And so, just to say that, you know, being naked is a powerful experience. Moving right along, you know, me and this individual, in fact, she says, you know, I think you ought to paint me. And so she was the first person I painted. I was thinking it was going to be up on the, but it's not, because it's actually, her painting is one of the best-selling pieces of art that I have, and it was the first one I did, yeah. But anyway, so that was my first body paint. So I recognized I ended up, I was using cloth, I was using adornments like, jewelry and so forth. I was using now paint. I had added that to my tool chest. So my sexy for the woman, my sexy is I support women. I support women to be empowered. I realize that women are our future. In fact, women literally birth our future into existence. If women don't feel empowered, none of us feel empowered, okay? So I challenge men, particularly, to flank women and support women and help them towards their enlightenment. We are actually in a different age. A lot of people don't know that, but we've passed out of the Piscean age, time of men, and we're in the Aquarian age, time of the feminine, okay? So now women, and we see it all over, women are being empowered. Women are standing up, and women feel, that power shining on them, literally. So as men, we can learn ejaculation control. Men, we can learn Tantra. We can learn the Tao of love and sexology. We can learn how to make love to women to where they fully blossom and they fully have their orgasmic experiences. Some women still don't have orgasms. That is totally unacceptable, okay? So being sexy is more than about just having sex, of course, but definitely your sex center, your chakra, your sex chakra is what gets everything else going. That's the stove right there. You got to cook right there before you can make anything else happen. So that's my big sexy. Thank you.
Ifoma Stubbs.